They say that those who don't remember the mistakes of the past are doomed to repeat it. But in the case of the current Carly storyline on General Hospital, it seems that those who don't remember the character's past are determined to revisit it and mess it up big time. Clearly, Carly's recent visit to Jacksonville has been designed as a way for her to show her vulnerability to Drew. After all, he's been by her side this week as she relived a dark period from her life. Which is well and good, except the writers have gotten a whole lot of the history wrong, from where events unfolded to what happened years later. For newer viewers, or those who, like the writers, may have forgotten, here's why Carly's Jacksonville story doesn't really make sense in a nutshell. Although you'd never know it from the story currently unfolding on air, Reese didn't actually die in that car crash. In fact, years later, she came back to Port Charles as an FBI agent and turned Sonny and Carly's lives upside down. Because not only did Reese not die, but her name wasn't Reese, it was actually Charlotte Reese Roberts, whose nickname was Carly, and whose identity the woman we now know as Carly eventually stole. You see, some of the story we're being told now is sorta accurate, because the original Carly did supposedly die in a car accident, although that was actually a lie told by her mother, which is why when she turned up in Port Charles years later using the name Reese Marshall, she was able to do so without anyone getting suspicious. And not for nothing, but as some fans with way better memories than us pointed out, all of this took place not in Jacksonville, but Fort Myers, and the school was Robert F. Kennedy, which was later abandoned because a dam had been built and the area was going to be flooded. Not John F. Kennedy, the facility Carly and Drew spent a lot of time at this week. Still others pointed out issues that had less to do with the details than the story itself and its place on the canvas. As Wubsnet pointed out, there's no damn reason this story is on as much as it is, and Liz's story is a slug snail fest. Others felt that Drew rushing to Carly's side to help her deal with an out-of-town trauma from the past felt an awful lot like a retread of the Nixon Falls story, which brought Sonny and Nina together last year. One thing pretty much everyone with a familiarity of the show agreed with, that this couldn't, or at least shouldn't, be laying the groundwork for Reese to return, again. Why? Because the character died, this time for real, during the 2005 train wreck story, which happened to be Laura Wright's very first episode in the role of Carly. The lights of Port Charles seemed a little brighter the morning Carly Spencer decided to tell her side of the story. Inside Kelly's, the coffee was hot, the gossip hotter. It had all started on General Hospital when Carly made a jaw-dropping confession about why she'd secretly funneled money into a struggling waterfront property, money that, according to her, was meant to protect the people I love. But to fans watching at home, it sounded more like a ticking bomb wrapped in good intentions, and they were not quiet about it. So many issues, one longtime viewer posted within minutes of the episode ending. Carly never learns. The storyline unfolded like classic Port Charles chaos. Carly stood in the Metro Court lobby, chin lifted, eyes blazing, while Jason looked on in stoic silence. She explained that she had discovered a quiet land acquisition near Sonny's old territory, one that could have allowed a dangerous new player to gain leverage over the Corinthos family. Rather than tell anyone, Carly acted alone. Again. "I handled it," she insisted, "before it could become a threat." But fans weren't buying the hero narrative. On screen, the tension simmered. Michael accused her of undermining the family's trust. Drew questioned why she thought secrecy was the only solution. Even Jocelyn, fiercely loyal to her mother, looked conflicted. "You don't get to decide what's best for everyone," Michael snapped, his voice echoing in the Metro Court restaurant. Carly's expression flickered, hurt, then defiance. "I've been protecting this family since before you knew what danger looked like." And there it was, the core of Carly's character, fierce, impulsive, devoted, but often blind to the collateral damage left in her wake. Online, the reactions were explosive.
Fans dissected every frame. Some applauded her bravery, calling it peak Carly energy. Others rolled their eyes, labeling the plot contrived and repetitive. "This is the same arc with a new coat of paint," one fan wrote. "Secret plan, good intentions, massive fallout." Another added, "Why does Carly always think she's the only competent adult in Port Charles?" But perhaps the most heated debates centered on the emotional hypocrisy. Carly had spent months rebuilding trust with Sonny after past betrayals. She'd sworn transparency, promised no more unilateral decisions, and yet here she was, standing in the wreckage of another secret. The writers didn't shy away from the backlash within the episode itself. Later that night, Carly confronted Jason in her office. The room was dim, city lights reflecting off the windows. "You think I'm wrong too," she said quietly. Jason hesitated, and in that hesitation, viewers felt the shift. "I think you're scared," he replied, "and when you're scared, you take control." It was a rare moment of vulnerability. Carly's shoulders dropped, just slightly. For a split second, the iron-willed matriarch looked tired. That scene changed the conversation. Fans began asking deeper questions. Is Carly's need for control a trauma response? Is she repeating patterns because she doesn't know another way? Is the show finally ready to hold her accountable? The brilliance of the storyline wasn't in whether Carly was right or wrong, it was in how uncomfortably human she felt. In one particularly powerful scene, Jocelyn confronted her mother at home. "You don't trust anyone else to fix things," Jocelyn said softly, "but sometimes fixing things alone is what breaks them." The words landed like a slap. For longtime viewers, Carly's arc has always been about survival. From her earliest days stirring trouble to her transformation into a business powerhouse, she's thrived on taking charge. But growth, that's a different battle. As the week progressed, consequences rippled outward. The land deal triggered an investigation. Old rivals resurfaced. Sonny's enemies took notice. What Carly thought she'd neutralized had instead drawn attention. Classic Port Charles irony. By Friday's cliffhanger, Carly stood on the pier, wind whipping through her hair, staring at the water as Sonny approached. "Tell me everything," he said. The camera lingered on her face, conflicted, stubborn, afraid. Would she finally choose honesty over control? The fan base remains divided. Some argue that Carly's flaws make her compelling. If she suddenly made perfect decisions, she wouldn't be Carly, one viewer defended. Others insist the pattern has grown exhausting. Accountability matters. Let her actually face consequences this time. And perhaps that's the real magic of General Hospital. After decades on air, it still sparks passionate debate. Characters feel real enough to argue about. Their mistakes sting because viewers have invested years watching them evolve, or refuse to. Carly's latest story isn't just about a secret land deal, it's about power, fear, and the messy line between protection and control. It's about a woman who loves fiercely, but often confuses love with authority. So many issues, fans say. Yes, exactly. Because in Port Charles, issues are currency, secrets are oxygen, and redemption is never guaranteed. As Monday's preview teases another explosive confrontation, one thing is certain: whether you're cheering for Carly or shouting at your television, you're watching.